Welcome back, fight fans. We're back again. We're going to talk, of course, about last week's card, UFC Vegas 67. Then, of course, moving on to, I got to move that back, UFC 283 for the pay-per-view. Amazing card, looks like. So we will open right away with UFC Vegas 67 with the prelims. Charles Johnson, Jimmy Flick. That was the first fight. Gotta say, was a little surprised by how one-sided it was. Or actually, was it one-sided? I remember being surprised about something. We'll see what that was as I work through the fight. Johnson definitely more dangerous on the feet, and I mean, Flick definitely not really known for the stand-up. Definitely more so known for the ground game. Oh, that's right. He did end up getting it down. That's right. So yeah, Johnson obviously trying to keep this on his feet. Same thing he did with Mokaev, obviously. With Mokaev, couldn't really get anything going outside of that because of course, that wrestling pace from Mokaev. In this situation, though, did very much get the stand-up game going. Flick was pretty close to getting a takedown there, but Johnson actually reversed him, took the dominant spot on top. Then Flick started to get the submission attempts up right away, as expected. Was shut down, though. Striking advantage did become more obvious, though, as Johnson wobbled him pretty bad more than once, walking him down when they got back on the feet, of course. Flick then made it very interesting, jumping on Johnson, taking him down, taking his back. Sadly, that did not last very long for him. He was reversed again, started to get hit by a bunch of ground and pound, lots of elbows. Then the ref came in. And it was the same ref actually 2 or 3 times. I would say 3 times that night. Little bit early on all 3 of them, honestly. This one definitely pretty early, I would say. Pretty early. The earliest one I've seen all year. It was the first fight of the year. But it was actually the earliest one I've seen in quite a while. Definitely an early stoppage, but it was pretty one-sided before that. He could have easily gotten to the second round. Would it have made it past that? I don't really know, but I mean, you got to think it was definitely a pretty one-sided fight. I mean, I'm not complaining about that one really. It was early. Did it make much of a difference? Probably not. Second fight, Dan Argueta, David Aguirre. Yeah. That was the second fight of the night. Longer, definitely a longer fight this time. Argueta opened hard, heavy leg kicks, pushed him into the fence, found himself on top, so controlling the action quite a bit early. And I mean, that's kind of what I was kind of what we were expecting, going into it. Because of course, again, I always make all of my picks on Tapology every single fight, not just the main card. So Yeah, I mean, I thought I thought the Johnson fight would have lasted a lot longer. I picked the Johnson by decision there. Dan Argetta, I picked well, actually Argetta by decision, which ended up that actually did cash in there. Um, so pretty close. What was I don't even know why I said that or what. Well, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Let's get back to it. I keep getting distracted. Open hard, heavy leg kick. Aguirre was doing some wild scrambling. Oh yeah, Aguirre was of course making his debut, which is kind of why a lot of people, including myself, were thinking Argetta pretty. I wouldn't say very obvious choice, but you got to think you're heading in that direction for sure. Uh, and Aguirre actually did manage to reverse him and take his back. Then he managed to get in a couple of submission attempts. So very even up until this point. Argetta then did get out of it, reversed Aguirre, found himself on top, getting some pretty good ground and pound, then finished the round on the back of Aguirre. Close round, but I mean, you gotta go with Argetta leaning in that direction because he did end up getting the ground and pound, got the late control time there. Makes sense on that one. Second round, Argetta started pretty quick again, pressured forward, landing some good combos. Aguirre started to land a couple of good shots himself, uh, which then slowed down the pace of Argetta, which he recovered pretty nicely from that, then pushed Aguirre into the fence, landing a lot of clinch strikes. Then getting a takedown out of that started to really completely overwhelm him from there. Ground and pound, deep submission. Thought he was going to get a tap, actually. It was pretty close. Then another deep submission attempt to finish the round. Pretty dominant round for Argetta. So that was a pretty obvious one. And I mean, really, and again, going into this, that was really the story. I mean, it was really the experience. Well, you don't want to use experience too much, but because I mean, he's only had one or I think one, maybe two fights in the UFC, Dan Argetta. But I mean, the caliber of opponents, and he made it. I believe he made it to decisions with both of them. I can't remember that one actually, so I don't remember that specifically, but I do know that he. That was really the main point was that he had clearly fought the better people, withstood quite a bit of it against those guys. So it kind of made sense, go with the proven guy. Whereas Aguirre didn't really have that background at all. So, you know, safer bet was obviously Argetta in this. And, oh, that was the other thing. Aguirre, a lot of quicker finishes, which tends to mean a lot of action in the first round, and then they taper off in the second and third. And that's exactly what happened. So, we know what we're doing here. Third round, Aguirre opened up, nice head kick, but was continuously getting walked down by Argetta. Lots of pressure, lots of scrambling on the ground with Argetta, getting the dominant spot again. Lots of ground and pound. Clearly going for a finish. You got to respect that. Didn't get it, but pretty dominant win for Argetta there. So pretty obvious decision win there. And a pretty good performance. Fight number 3, Alan Nascimento. Uh, did not write down the first name of Hernandez. Uh, I actually don't remember. Oh no, there's so many Hernandezes. I actually don't remember, and I didn't write it down. Some pretty good striking from both guys early, but I mean, we know Nascimento clearly more of a jiu-jitsu guy. So was looking for it to go to there. Nascimento quickly responded with a clean combo of his own after Hernandez had landed a pretty good one. Then use that to rush in, take the back of Hernandez, drag him down. And that was pretty much it from there. Nascimento immediately in a fantastic position, locked around his neck, 3 minutes left in the round. You can't do much with that. I mean, especially when it's right at the start of the fight, you're completely dry. That's pretty hard to get out of that, especially with somebody this good. Defending well, but, Nascimento locked in pretty deep. Hernandez stood up. Oh yeah, Hernandez did actually stand up. I mean, they're pretty light guys. They can stand up with somebody on top of them. But that just made it worse. Locked it in deeper. Incredible submission there. And that was actually the only submission of the night. So that was my pick for submission of the night. Was probably going to get it anyway unless something crazy happened, because it was a pretty good submission as it was. I mean, pretty dominant, pretty cool to watch. Fight number 4, that's where it really kicked up a notch. Mateusz Rebecki and Nick Fiore. I think like a lot of people, I mean, especially the betting lines, I mean, he was what, minus, I think it was 7 or 800 we said last week. I thought he was going to run straight through him. I mean, this guy, especially on the Contender Series, I mean, wow. Wrecking ball for sure. Of course, Fiore, on the other hand, I don't think he was undefeated. He might have actually been undefeated. So I mean, I figured Rebecki was still going to win, but I definitely knew it was going to last a little bit longer. Didn't think it would make it to a decision, though. I did not see that one coming. But my God, did he try his best? Both guys throwing wild, wild shots right away. Also expected, Rebecki was the one leading the dance, walking Fiore down, swinging windmills. What a guy. Love watching this guy. I mean, just watching anybody like that, yeah, that's top shelf right there. Both guys landing, but Rebecki definitely landing a lot harder. Fiore just seemed to be getting overwhelmed by the power and the pace. I mean, when you've got somebody actually throwing windmills, like full on, bah, every single punch constantly, I mean, what are you going to do? You can't go in there and do the same thing. You're going to probably get hit. So he's, of course, walking back, dodging, doing everything he can. But of course, that means the pace isn't quite there for you. You're not getting your chance at the offense. So, lots of damage. Interestingly, though, Rebecki decided to switch it up and took Fiore down. I mean, maybe he just was getting a little tired himself, wanted to reset himself with some grappling. I'm not really quite sure. Or maybe he just wanted to look better on the cards and get a takedown in there as well to really put that round on the cards, which he clearly did. So maybe that was a strategy. I don't know. Little weird, because maybe he could have kept going, pushing hard for the finish. Of course, then, as I said, might get too tired and then blow the whole fight. So you don't want to do that. So I mean, eh, you know, strategy still worked. First round, like I said, obviously Rebecki. Second round, Fiore tried to get things going, but was then immediately overwhelmed. Just like the other round, classic massive shots from Rebecki. Then Rebecki did start to slow down a little bit, met some adversity, was actually taken down by Fiore, got back up, definitely slower than before though. Instead of trying to throw those windmills constantly, actually went for takedowns instead from there, got Fiore down, did get some ground and pound, open up a cut. Because of that, probably stole the round back. So I had it 2-0 for Rebecki at that point. But definitely, like I said, closer than we thought, especially considering Fiore never been out of, I don't think he had ever been out of the first round. So it was kind of like, oh, wow, we don't know how he's going to react in the second and third round. That's why everybody had all those finishes. I mean, either way, you're probably going to be betting on first or second round finish. I mean, definitely not betting on decisions with these two kind of guys. So that's where it got a little bit more surprising. Clearly down on the cards, Fiore looked to get something going, had a bit of success, but was then taken down once again. Not really a whole lot happening the rest of the round. Just, I mean, dominant control from Rebeshki. Pretty clear decision win. Obviously, very, very exciting guy to watch. Yeah, I can't wait to see that guy again. Wow. And that was also my fight of the night. I mean, really, there were a decent amount of finishes, so not gonna make those fight of the night. Nothing crazy was happening in all of the other fights. So I had to pick something that ended up being the one. And I mean, they were throwing pretty hard the whole time. You know, there just weren't really a whole lot of fights that were like that lasted long enough that were exciting enough. I mean, it was just one of those nights. You can't do anything about that. Fifth fight, Abdulrazak Alhassan, Claudio Ribeiro. This one was definitely one of the closer ones going into it. By the way, I think I was 4-0 at that point. Pretty good start. Abdulrazak Alhassan, Claudio Ribeiro. Um, this one definitely, like I said, going into it, definitely the closest one up until this point. I can't remember actually who I went with. I think I did go with Ribeiro, which is what most people did go with. But I do remember thinking this is pretty close, and this is definitely one that I could easily lose. Because even actually, when I first saw it, I actually was on Al Hassan's side, and then I changed it because I looked a little bit deeper into it, and I was like, "Oh, Hassan hasn't really done all that well." Ribeiro, he got a great finish on the Contender Series. When that kind of stuff happens, it's going to be a close fight. It really could go either way on that one. So I don't regret the choice. But I did actually. Oh man, because I did change it too. That really sucks when that happens. When you have the right answer and then you change it. You change it at the end, last second. Should not have done that. That being said, the the switch was well reasoned. Definitely not one of the worst ones I've ever made. That's for sure. Anyway, massive kicks from Ribeiro that Al Hassan wasn't even checking. I mean, it was insane to watch. They were talking about it, but I mean, oh my god, the kicks, the kicks from this guy. I was like, whoa! Every single time one landed, I was like, whoa, that's a kick. Uh, but like I said, wasn't even checking them. Huge, huge kicks. Didn't seem to even. I mean, he was definitely reacting like, "Oh wow, okay," but not even checking them. I couldn't believe it, really. Then Al Hassan actually started to switch it up compared to his usual style, probably to combat those kicks. Pushed Ribeiro into the fence, and that's actually what kept happening. It happened about, I think, 2 or 3 times in a row, where it was like a lot of kicks, some stand up from Ribeiro. Then Al Hassan would push him into the fence, and then it was close, but that kept happening. Al Hassan's control time, and then a late flurry from Al Hassan could have won it on the cards, honestly. But I actually gave it to Ribeiro just because of those kicks. There's a lot of kicks in there, a lot of kicks, and control time, as we've discussed and discovered over the last like 6 months to a year, it doesn't mean shit anymore. Control time. So I mean, obviously damage heavily towards Ribeiro. So I would have given it to Ribeiro the first round. Second round, Ribeiro, lots more of those kicks. Then everything switched, just completely went out the window for Ribeiro. Al Hassan landed a massive bomb. Never really recovered from that. Ribeiro was in some trouble right away, started getting walked down. He landed a couple more big shots, and then Al Hassan, I should say, actually landed a couple more big shots, dropped Ribeiro to his knees along the fence, and the ref had no choice but to call it off there. I don't actually know if that was the same ref that I was talking about before, because I remember thinking, okay, he could have probably kept going another 30 seconds, but I see why he ended it this time. I think it was the same ref though. But yeah, I mean, great win for Al Hassan though. Not really the the best track record recently, which again is the other reason why a lot of people weren't picking him, and I didn't pick him either. That's why I switched it actually, like I said. The recent track record plus Ribeiro looking decent on the Contender Series. Again, it was close on the odds. You really could have gone either way with it, especially with those leg kicks. I mean, it was looking good for Ribeiro, but it happens. Fight number 6. But yeah, anyway, good win for Al Hassan to get back in there and get a win. And interesting conversation he had after, which was that he seems to be one of those guys that does really, really well in training and then just can't put that in the cage. And you can kind of see that because he seems like he should be really good. The technique is there. The power's obviously there. I mean, it's just that he can't seem to make the right decisions in the fight to put a win together. That's really all it is. And I mean, I saw that a while ago, but I mean, of course, you're not going to bet on somebody like that, which of course is why, again, why I ended up changing it. Because like I said, he's clearly got the talent. He's clearly got the power. He's got everything he needs. He just needs to put it together. And that was interesting to hear that. Like I said, fight number 6 after that. And this was one that we did talk about last week. This was Basharat and Mendonça. I said how good this fight was going to be, and it was. I almost actually did make this the fight of the night, but there were a couple of points where it was a couple minutes in a row where it was like, okay, we're not a whole lot's happening here, so I couldn't give it the number 1 fight specifically because of that. But I think from what I remember, it was in my second spot for fight of the night there. Brawl of the night, I should say. But yeah, fast start. Basharat moving a lot, trying to avoid Mendonça and his quick combos, forward pressure, which Basharat actually did talk about after the fight, that he knew Mendonça's style, heavy, heavy, heavy stuff in the first round, just wanted to avoid that and then get back into it the second and third round, which I mean, we did see on the Contender Series. I mean, he won in less than a minute. So clearly he starts fast, and that was not the first time he did that either. So, but yeah, Basharat, mostly, like I said, on the defensive, that's for sure. But he was dodging pretty much everything and actually countering pretty hard. He was getting some pretty good counter shots in there, which really shows the experience, and which is exactly why I had so much confidence in him going into this, because the pick was Basharat decision. That is exactly what I thought was going to happen. Yeah, I mean, he's just really, really talented. And I mean, the only reason I went with a decision is because I know how good all of these, I believe, flyweight, how good all of these guys are. Uh, yeah, so I didn't expect a finish, that's for sure. Um, yeah, anyway, moving on. Mendonça did try to switch it up because he was getting countered pretty hard on the feet. Decided to switch it up, going for the grappling a couple times. Couldn't get anything going with it, even though he did get a couple of takedowns in there. Again, not really a whole lot of surprise there because Basharat, like I said, very good, very well rounded. And we'll talk about after what I think he should be doing. But I mean, he even said it himself. I mean, top 15 is really the only thing that makes sense. I mean, why is he not getting a top 15 person? I mean, he clearly deserves it. But yeah, after some more counters, Mendonça had already slowed down quite a bit. And that's exactly what Basharat was talking about, which is he comes out hard, starts to slow down, and then, you can control the fight from there. Mendonça landed a couple of good ones near the end of the round, locked in a decent submission attempt. But you know what? I actually gave the round, I think, to Basharat. It was very, very close, and you can make a case either way. But I thought Basharat had the extra damage in there because, like I said, it was the counters. Mendonça was throwing more, but Basharat was landing more and landing heavier, did a little bit more damage. So that's the direction that I went in. But it could go either way with that one, really. Second round, Mendonça started off pretty wild again, moved to some grappling this time, still pretty close until Basharat landed some pretty good ones. That allowed him to then take Mendonça down and control him from the top. Excuse me. Mendonça then slipped Bashrat into a heel hook, which was pretty interesting. Never got too deep with it. Never seemed threatened at all. Although I will say it actually did seem pretty threatening, even though he never really got deep on it. Did look a couple times like, oh, he's got to really move or else he's going to get stuck here. But other than that, not a whole lot for Mendonça. So I, definite round, I would say, for Basharat. So it was either tied or he was up one or up two. I thought he was up two at that point. Third round, Basharat kept the same strategy going, finding himself on top, lots of control. Mendonça was giving it everything he had. He was really trying, but just could not stop Basharat, giving a pretty clear win to Basharat. And I mean, you know, that was expected because he's just that good. And again, I want to say that too. And I think I said that last week too. It's nothing against Mendonça at all. I don't have anything against him at all. I actually really like him. I followed him on the right after the contender series. I was like, this guy's amazing. I need to follow this guy. Which I don't always do really. But I had to with this guy. He's so cool. So yeah, and he is really good, and he did prove that. He is very, very good. I mean, Basharat is really, really good. Top 15, possibly top 10. So, and he competed him with him the whole time. So I think there is a pretty clear future for Mendonça, but as I think I said last week, just not quite there yet. And that's really the only reason why, you know, you got to go with Basharat on that one. But yeah, the future. I completely agree with him. He actually said this after. He said he's been, a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, you haven't fought anybody in the top 15 yet." But it's like, and I totally agree with him too. It's like, who cares? Like, he's been fighting. He's been taking only tough fights. All of his fights have been against top people. And I said that last week going into it. That was the other reason why I picked him. He's been fighting all of these top tier guys that are probably also going to be in the top 15. So he's not taking easy fights here. So, I mean, yeah, now after this, I mean, it's just another reason. Give him somebody in the top 15 for sure. So he can just get into there and get into the top 10 and all that. Cause that's clearly where he's going to be ending up. Let's let's speed it up a bit, you know? And I do actually think he will win, or at least there's a couple of winnable fights in the top 15. So yeah, I can't wait. Great, great fighter. Main card now that opened up with Umar Nurmagomedov and Raoni Barcelos. As I said last week, I mean, again, I obviously talked about this last week. Did go with Umar by decision because I mean, Barcelos had never been knocked out, and I didn't think he was going to submit him. So I thought the pretty clear choice then would be decision, which I stand by because that does make a lot of sense. But that is not what happened at all. In fact, even in the moment, I was like, what just happened here? Couldn't believe it when it landed. Anyway, dead even to start. Lots of kicks from Umar. That is what he's known for, more kicks. Barcelos throwing a lot of kicks too, but waiting a little bit more. Umar looked very, very good, landing some pretty good combos. Barcelos then started to struggle a bit more. Did get hit pretty hard a couple of times, actually, Barcelos. So Umar running away with it on the feet, which, to be honest, I mean, I wouldn't say I didn't expect that at all. I mean, we've seen Barcelos struggle on the feet in the last couple of fights. So I wasn't really also too surprised by that. I just didn't think it was going to be this one-sided, I would say. And then, like I said, just I thought it was going to be into the next round. I mean, I didn't think there was going to be a knockout at all. Umar was moving backwards and landed a hook and knocked him out cold, followed up with a brutal hammer, yeah, hammer punch. What do you call that? Um, yeah, uh, yeah, and he felt bad about it too. I mean, it was tough to watch. But yeah, couldn't believe it. Honestly, couldn't believe it. Unreal. Did not expect that at all. And I mean, like I said, he had never been knocked out before. Barcelos never been knocked out before. Got a clean KO in the first round. Did not expect that. Like I said, definitely more so expecting the decision on that one. Uh, but yeah, very impressive. That was actually, I believe, the knockout. Yeah, it was KO of the night. Briefly considered, well, up until that point, I actually did give him. I think I had him as uh fighter of the most valuable fighter. I think yes, I definitely did up until that point. But then, of course, it got more interesting later, and we'll talk about that as it comes up. But he did not end up being the most valuable fighter, but he did have that KO of the night. Incredible KO. Then it was Raquel Pennington and Ketlin Vieira. I gotta say, I'm not. I wouldn't really say I was all that surprised. Actually, now that I think about it, I mean, and I said that last week too. That I mean, the wins were questionable, which is what should have been the giveaway, really, in this one. But anyway, we'll get into the fight. Huge size advantage for Vieira. That was pretty obvious right away. Pennington started to throw. Vieira countering pretty hard, clearly having what? A power. Oh my goodness. I was like, what does that say on my notes? Clearly had the power advantage. I mean, like I said, I said this last week, much younger. And this week we saw very definitely a lot bigger. So I mean, on the feet, obviously, power advantage, maybe even a speed advantage, possibly too. Vieira was the one pressuring forward and landing shots. So for me, I did give it to Vieira. I thought that was pretty clear in the first round. The second round, a lot more success from Pennington to open the second. Then it was her grappling that started to give her the edge, and that was more so what I was worried about. Pinning Vieira into the fence, then actually saw the exact opposite uh, play out with Vieira landing well, then pushing Pennington into the fence. So pretty much dead even at that point. Vieira started to slow down that output, allowed Pennington to get her numbers back up. And that is really the turning point of, actually, I would say probably the entire fight, because I mean, I think the first round, pretty obviously Vieira, but the second round up for grabs. I mean, it was back and forth the whole time. And I thought she lost the round. I thought it was Pennington on that one. Vieira did push her into the fence, like I said, I was about to say. But like I said, the slight edge in numbers on that for Pennington, it's that close. Got to give it to Pennington. So I thought it was tied up until that point. Third round, Pennington did not slow down at all. Landed well, but Vieira started to get a little more aggressive. Lots of combos, pushing Pennington into the fence. They then kept switching positions back and forth along the fence. From there, Vieira started to get the upper hand, took Pennington's back, and that's kind of how it ended. So it was like, I don't know how to score this round, especially. So I think I didn't actually check the scorecard, so I don't know which round was the toss up. I would imagine it would have been the third. That was the one where I was like, oh, this really could go either way. Who knows what's happening on this one? Yeah. Oh, and actually, funny enough, I actually had it 10-10 because I don't know why this doesn't happen more often. And I'm gonna start doing that from now on. I really will. If I think that it's really, really close, it's going either way, it's super, super close, I'm just gonna score it 10-10 because that is the way it should be scored. You can score it 10-10, folks. You don't need a winner. It can be 10-10. I've seen it in the UFC as well. Like once I think I've seen a 10-10. But it can happen. And I honestly think it should be used more often. Because if you're genuinely not sure who won the round, it's a tie. It's a tie. 10-10. Like, just score it a 10-10. Like, I just don't know what the hesitance is there. Like, what, why are you not just scoring it 10-10? Because then you won't have all of these insane, all these insane scorecards. You won't have them, all these bizarre results. I mean, you'll just have like, oh, well, it was a super close fight, ends up being a draw. There you go. Happens in every other sport. Why wouldn't it happen here? That's what I don't really understand. So personally, I would even say that that would be the one of the huge ways that you can fix the huge problem with scorecards. Just score 10-10s if it's really that close. And then you won't have people. I mean, you'll still have people complaining because then they're like, oh, there's so many draws. Blah, 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 blah. But it's like, well, then do something to win the round. you know, like, I don't know. I think it's pretty obvious. Just score it a 10-10. So from now on, that is what I'm doing. I will be scoring 10-10s if I see fit. And this is one of those ones. So I actually had it as a tie. I had it, that would be 29-29. I had it a tie. Which, I mean, there you go. It's a split decision. So, I mean, I, again, wasn't completely off base by scoring it like that because they didn't know either. So again, and it would have been a tie. It would have been a draw. Wouldn't that have been better? Especially like when you think of both of their careers. Now, Vieta just lost to Pennington. I mean, if she would have won this, she could have easily gotten a title shot. Now, because she lost in a split decision, she loses everything when we could have just had a tie 29-29, which would have actually made more sense. Like, why are they not doing this? That's what I think. And now I really will start saying that more often. I will be scoring 10-10 rounds. So that's what I'm doing on this one. Like I said, 10-10 ended up being 29-29. That's what I had on my card. Yeah, and the judges were split, like I said, 29-28 either way, and then one of them had it 29-28 for Pennington. And how do you argue with that? I mean, it is that close. But and like I said, that's what I was getting to. That's what I was actually talking about just before I talked about that fight was, excuse me, was that the problem I was thinking going into it. I was like, she's so unreliable, really. Like, she's not winning these fights convincingly. Like, that home one, honestly, was a robbery. She did not win that fight. And there were some people that think that Tate beat Vieta, where that fight she wouldn't have even won. So it was like, if you're barely beating Tate to the point where people are questioning it, like Pennington has proven that she's good. So, I guess I should have trusted that. I should have trusted that. Because I even said it out loud. I even said how I don't trust Vieta's wins at all because I honestly don't think she won the home one for sure. So I don't know. I mean, yeah, we shouldn't really be too surprised that that Pennington ended up winning that because, like I said, the wins were already questionable for Vieta, and I just don't understand why. Like, why is she fighting like this? I mean, that's what gets to me really is she has so much talent. She's so good, but she just seems to not make the move. She doesn't push the pace. She doesn't even get herself in the conversation. Like, she's not making it easy on these judges at all. Like, just go in there. You think Pennington's gonna knock you out? Like, what do you think is gonna happen? Like, what? You're clearly the bigger person, the younger person, the more powerful person. So what are you doing? Like, why are you letting all of these older fighters? All three of them were older, way older than her, by the way. Pennington, Holm, Tate, they're all way older than her. So why are you letting these people dictate the pace for you? It just doesn't make any sense. Just super frustrating person to watch. I mean, I could never be a huge fan of somebody like that. It's just way too frustrating. You just can't do that. Like, no, like go in there, fight. That is your job to fight. Go in there, fight, and then you'll win. She would have won all probably. Well, I don't know about the Holm one because Holm's pretty good, but she would have convincingly, easily won Pennington, this one and the Tate one easily if she would have at least, like 10 more punches around. That's it. 10 more, like, 10 more. That's it. That's all you needed to do, and you would have just convincingly won. It wouldn't have even really been a question at that point. And that's it. And then you'd be looking at an easy title shot. I mean, I don't think you're going to win, that's for sure. But you would have gotten the title shot, I'm sure, at that point. And they would have been pushing you harder. They would have been like, whoa, look at Ketlin Vieira. She's doing all these things against these legends. Now it's just like, oh, split decision win over Holm. That was kind of garbage. Tate win, which wasn't great. Now you got Pennington loss in a split decision. Like, I don't know. It's super frustrating to watch because you can see the talent is there. I can't stand watching people like that. And it was the same thing with Zachukwu too. We talked about him doing the exact same thing. It's literally the same thing. They all have it. Like Kennedy, I mean, he's massive. He's like 6'7". The guy's a monster. And here we are, and it's just like, this guy is not doing anything. He's clearly got the skill, clearly got the everything to do it, and then he just doesn't do it. And of course, Woodley is the best example of that. My good God. And it's so frustrating to watch. Like that's why it's a hard time being a fan of people like that. Even though you can tell they're nice people, you can tell they're really good. But as a fan, I can't look at that and be happy about it because it's just like you're not even giving yourself a chance to win this fight. Anyway, rant over. Next one, fight number 9, Puna, Soriano, Kopilov. And we did say this was the closest one of the night. I'm pretty sure we said that. I think it was actually. Yeah, it was like dead even on the odds. I was struggling who to pick on this one, to be honest. And then I ended up going with Soriano, like most people. And it was because of that power and because of the fact that he's done, I guess, better against the same caliber of people because they haven't been fighting tougher people necessarily from what I remember. Actually, maybe Puna was fighting slightly tougher people, but the fact was that Puna was getting finishes, Kopilov was not. So, like just that slight difference, you go with Soriano. I mean, you got to find something. You got to find some reason to pick somebody. And that ended up being the reason. I don't regret it. Like I said, I mean, going with Kopilov, like what would have been the reason behind going with Kopilov, honestly? Like I'm trying to think of one, and that's exactly why I didn't pick him because there kind of wasn't really a reason to pick him. Yeah, but that's just one of those fights. This one was just one of those times where it's just like, anything could have happened in that fight. As opposed to the one before with Pennington and Vieira, where it's like, I question Vieira so much, I probably should have just picked Pennington and I would have won. So that one is like, okay, you could have easily seen that one coming. This one, literally anything could have happened. This is just one of those fights. Heavy punches from Puna early, then in deep on a takedown attempt. Kopilov was slow to get anything going, really. So, I mean, really, Puna did seem like the right choice, even for the first few minutes of the actual fight itself. Landed a couple of good combos, but got too close. Ended up getting hit pretty hard by Puna. As the round went on, though, Kopilov was really landing his jabs straight to the chin of Soriano, not really blocking much of any of them at that point. And that was where it started to flip the script there. Soriano slowed down to a grinding halt, really had no output for the last minute or two. I didn't write it down, but I do remember like at least a minute. He didn't really throw much of anything, which then, of course, let Kopylov take control from there. I mean, he was landing his jabs, like I said, got an easy takedown. And with that, I actually scored it for Kopylov in the first round. And yeah, he never really recovered from there. Second round, pretty tight. Like pretty tight still. Some good shots, good combos from both guys. Kopylov then started to land a little bit more again. Soriano getting in trouble, wobbling all over the cage. Looked like he might get finished. Did make it through though at that point, but was getting walked down quite a bit. Then Kopylov kept that going until the ref stopped it. And this was the third time. This was the third time with that same ref that night where I was like, that is a little bit early. Yeah. And again, not like the first fight. I will say the first fight was like blatantly early. This one, it was definitely an early stoppage again. Like he could have, I'm sure, fought for another 30 seconds, maybe gotten out of the round. I don't know. But you want to like let's see the fucking finish. Like especially as a fighter too, they don't want to see an early stoppage like that. That's garbage. So, I mean, if I'm a ref, I'm stopping it when it's done. And it was not done. But anyway, whatever, I still think Kopylov was going to win anyway. It's only when you think it's going to switch the outcome. That's when you start complaining. So I didn't have a huge problem with any of those three. I mean, were they early? Yes. But did it affect anything? Honestly, no, probably not. So, not going to complain about it too much, but just letting you know, it happened. It happens. And it happened here 3 times with the same ref, Kerry Hadley. I remember. And I will be watching out for that name from now on. Cause yeah, 3 times in the same night. That's not a fluke. That's a pattern at that point. But yeah, Kopylov KO or TKO, I should say, obviously, early stoppage. Second round. Yeah. And there's not really a whole lot to say about that. Like I said, really could have gone either way going into it. Don't regret it at all. Yeah, could have gone either way. The co-main. I need to get my phone out for this one because again, I'm sure nobody's probably listening to this, but if you are listening to this section, why can I not send my notes to my laptop over AirDrop? I don't understand. The AirDrop is on. I've sent things from my laptop to here via AirDrop. I know AirDrop works. I use it all the time for the laptop, but for some reason I can't send things out of this phone and I don't understand why. So if somebody's watching out there and you got any tips, help me out here because I genuinely don't understand it. And I've looked it up. I cannot find a solution. I just don't understand what's going on. But anyway, oh my God. And after that, I forgot that I was looking this up for Ige and Jackson. Oopsie. That's a different note. Got lots of notes here, of course. I am. Jackson, of course, started the fight hard, rushed in with some combos. Oh, by the way, I did end up going with Jackson by decision. I mean, and to be honest, I really do feel bad for picking him because I even thought going into it, I was like, if there's ever a fight that this guy's going to win, if there's ever a fight that Dan Ige is going to win, it's got to be this one. He has to win this. And I should have factored into that because this is one of those picks that I do regret. I should not have taken Jackson. And I will freely admit when I have made a massive mistake. This was one of those mistakes. I should not have picked Jackson. especially since, like, yeah, he's winning decisions, but he's not winning against the same caliber of guys. Yes, he does have the grappling background, but Ige, he's better than that. So, you know, I should have picked Ige. I should have picked Ige. That's all I'm trying to say. I was wrong on this one, and I do regret that pick. I really do. But yeah, Jackson fight started started off hard. Interesting strategy as Ige responded with some heavy combos himself. So yeah, I'm not really sure why Jackson was throwing so many combos and so many strikes there. I think that was clearly the wrong way to go. I mean, just error and lapse and strategy right there. Because Ige, very much known for his striking, so why would you even test that out? Jackson did slow down after that, but it was close on both sides. Questionable eye poke on Jackson right after that. Didn't really, I mean, it kind of wasn't really an eye poke. That's why it was questionable. It was like, I don't really know if that's an eye poke. It kind of wasn't, but whatever, it happens. I mean, the refs have got to do what they got to do. I mean, that is the one part where it's like the refs. I don't even know how they see things that fast. Because I mean, especially when you're going down lighter divisions with 145. I mean, 125. I mean, holy shit, anything goes at that point. How do they see that they're so quick with their punches? How do they even see anything? Like they're throwing like 300 punches in the fight. Like how do you judge whether they're landing legally at that point? They're so quick. But yeah, anyway, so but yeah, Ige came in hard trying to take advantage of the situation. I mean, Jackson was definitely hit in the eye, but it was a punch. That was the questionable part. So it's just still struggling with that vision, and Ige obviously wanted to take advantage of that right away. Came in really hard. And then Jackson's output slowed down to almost nothing. It never really came back from it. Excuse me. I don't know why I'm doing that. Like, it's just every single time. It happens when I talk a lot. I just have that problem. Maybe I'm not letting myself breathe enough. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it'll keep happening forever. But yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, Jackson's output slowed down to pretty much nothing. The rest of the round, Jackson was countering well, but I think pretty clearly lost the round to Ige. Second round, still very, very close. I mean, you can't say it was a landslide victory, that's for sure. Ige was walking him down while Jackson was avoiding, trying to land some shots. As the round went on, Ige still very clearly in control. Jackson just couldn't land anything all that significant. And that really wasn't a surprise at all, really, which is why I kind of regret picking it, because I knew the striking was going to be a problem. It was just I thought Jackson was going to be doing better with the grappling, and he didn't really even get a whole lot of it going, really. So, yeah, I mean, just a bad pick in general. And I knew that going into it too. I was like, oh man, I'm probably going to regret this, aren't I? I did, and I do. As the round went on, Ige still in control. Jackson really not landing a whole lot of anything. Then, looked like we were going to get into the final round, and that was it. Ige landed a massive, massive shot, put Jackson on his back, legs folded underneath him. I mean, you don't normally see that kind of knockout. Like just literally just folded back like a lawn chair. Amazing. Underneath, oh yeah, and no follow-up shots needed. Ige with the walk-off KO. Huge. And that was actually the one. That's right. That was the one where I really did almost give that KO of the night. But I knew I was going to be giving Dan Ige the most valuable fighter. So I figured let's spread out the bonuses. Most valuable fighter, Dan Ige, KO, Umar Nurmagomedov. That's why they were the way they were. Main event. What did I say going into it? Strickland decision. Perfect. perfect scenario for Strickland. I said that going into it, and it literally played out 100% exactly the way I said. Like, not even like I didn't like I'm not even kidding when I say it actually worked out 100%. Every single thing I said exactly happened. That is exactly what happened in this. And we're you know what? Honestly, we're kind of running out of time here. Like we need to move on to the pay-per-views. And I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say either. I mean, it's a Strickland fight. We knew what was going to happen, or at least I did anyway. Cashed in big. Yeah, I mean, listen, if you had Strickland by decision, like I said, you would have cashed in pretty big. I think it was like had to have been plus 200, plus 250, somewhere in there. And I mean, I nailed it right away. I mean, it wasn't even really close. And yeah, like I said, it happened exactly the way I said it would. I mean, Imavov couldn't really get anything going, wasn't landing anything. Strickland was landing more because he was pissed that he lost the decision from the last one. Which, by the way, again, of course, as always, I did watch Ariel's show. Actually, I didn't get to watch the Ngannou one on Tuesday. Didn't get to watch the one today, but I just finished watching the Eric Nixick interview this morning. So I saw, and that was also what I kind of figured too. He does not like losing at all. So when that happened to him, and he knew why he lost, it was output. If he just had more output, Strickland probably would have won that fight. And he knew that. He knew it after. He was like, fuck, like I fucked it up. I really did. And he came in knowing that he fucked up the last one, does not ever want to do that again. So he came in really trying to make a point, trying to get that extra output out there to win the fight. I mean, did he really need to do that though? Probably not. I mean, he was going to win either way, but still, it's good to see. It's good to see that he does have that in him to really push that pace farther, because that's not really what he's known for. He's known for basically doing, I wouldn't say the least amount possible, but he's not doing a whole lot. He's just doing it really, really well. But yeah, anyway, but that's exactly what I said going into it. I mean, he's got the skills. He's got way more skills than Imavov. I wasn't impressed when Imavov beat Buckley. It was kind of like you're mostly just grappling him, pushing him into the fence. That's how you're winning the fight. You can't do that against Strickland. That's not going to work. Especially when, and Nixick talked about this too, huge mistake making this fight at 205. Why would you do that? You just made it that much easier for him. And that's also what I said last week. He's much heavier than him going into this perfect scenario, which is exactly what he did. Strickland got a couple takedowns in there, pushed him against the fence quite a few times, landed did his usual striking thing. And that was it. Dominant. Easy win. And on the cards, it was just as easy. It was 49-46, 49-46, and 48-47, which is exactly what I had. I think I had 49-47. Let's see. First round, Strickland. Second round, Strickland. Third round. Could have gone either way, I said, but probably Strickland. Fourth round, pretty close. Oh, no, clear round for Strickland. That's right. Fifth round, lots of stuff from Imavov. So maybe Imavov won the fifth round. I don't know. You could have even made a case for 50-45. I honestly don't even think it was really all that close. And like I said, called it. 100% called it perfectly. And I guess that's kind of just what you get for knowing the fighters and like super, super paying attention to Strickland recently. I mean, it's really a lot easier to make the correct choices that way. It's just too bad that I can't get into that on every single fight. Like if I knew all of these fighters super well, every single one of them, yeah, I could probably get every single one right, but we just don't have that luxury. I've tried. But anyway, pretty easy one to decide there, Strickland. And one of the most unhinged post-fight press conferences I've ever scene. I mean, Strickland, what a guy. Oh, what a guy. Oh, and even in the cage too, the whole Trump 2024 thing. Oh my God. Oh boy. What can you say? What a lunatic. I mean, obviously I love the guy as a source of entertainment. Probably don't really want to be close to him in any capacity, but very entertaining guy to watch. That is for sure. And would I like to talk to him at some point? I'm sure. I'm sure our conversations would be unhinged to say the least. But yeah, some of the things he says, I mean, 2/3, probably half the shit he says, strongly disagree with. But yeah, great source of entertainment. And yeah, you got to respect that. He says what he says. He says what's on his mind. Got to respect that. I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, you can't say that or canceled. No, I don't give a fuck. Like, just say what you want to say. I disagree with, if I disagree with it, I disagree with it. Say what you want to say. I don't care. That's just how I approach it. So I find people like Strickland refreshing and hilarious, to a certain extent. When it gets outside of it, when you start doing things about it, then it's like, hold on here. But when you just want to just say whatever you want to say what you want to say. I'm here for it. Yeah. Oh yeah, we'll take our break, of course, and then we will get into the best card of the year so far. Obviously. Yeah, we're making dad jokes today. But yeah, we will take a break and we will be back right after that. I will see you right after this.
Allow me to introduce High Stick Vodka, a new way to celebrate victory. Gather around the glass with an award-winning, ultra-premium Canadian-made vodka. You probably won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka has a smooth, hard-hitting taste, or that it's developed in the birthplace of hockey. You won't listen when I say High Stick Vodka is a tribute to the game of hockey, or when I tell you it's distilled 4 times using Canada's purest mountain spring water to provide an authentic, remarkable flavor. But maybe you will listen when I say it comes in a f***ing hockey stick. Showcase your passion for hockey with our limited edition hand-blown hockey stick bottle. Whether you're celebrating victory or drinking to defeat, High Stick Vodka is better after every shot. Visit us at highstickvodka.com. It also comes in this regular bottle. Celebrate victory. Drink responsibly.
And we're back. UFC 283, Brazil. I cannot wait. I mean, oh my God, can I not wait? It's times like this, honestly, and I'm not even, actually, I just realized this. To be honest, if I had, well, for one, if I had money, two, if I was able to, honestly, this would be a card where you want to be there in person to watch, because this is going to be amazing. I truly cannot wait for this card. And I mean, I think honestly the co-main should probably be the main, but whatever. The rest of the card, like, there's a Brazilian in every single fight. There really is. There actually is a Brazilian in every single fight on the card, which in Brazil is going to be fucking nuts. It is going to be insanity. The crowd is going to be crazy. Cannot wait to watch this. And I honestly think there are going to be a lot of finishes on this card, because there are some, to put it mildly, there are some mismatches on this card for that exact reason, because they want Brazilians to win. But yeah, there are some mismatches on this card, to say the least, and we will talk about a couple of them. And honestly, I think this first one is a little bit of a mismatch after what I've recently seen, but on paper, though, this is a pretty big fight. Anyway, I mean, it is a big fight and I'm excited for it, but do I think it's going to be all that close? Not really. Paul Craig, and and Johnny Walker on the other side. Um, Ironically, funny enough, if you think about the names, they're not both from the UK. One of them is Brazilian. Johnny Walker himself is Brazilian, even though you would not think that from the name. Anyway, Paul Craig and Johnny Walker. That's what Michael Bisping does every time. He says it in a Scottish accent. You got to do it. Johnny Walker, Paul Craig. Um, this is how the main card is opening up. Fantastic way to open up the main card, to be honest. And you know what? If this would have happened a year ago, this matchup, I would have been running towards Paul Craig. And I don't even think I would have questioned. I wouldn't have even thought twice about it. I would have been like, okay, Paul Craig, win, easy. But I gotta say, what I've seen over the past year, not even just the last matchup for both of these guys, just what I've seen in the last year, I don't even think this is going to be close. I really don't, because Paul Craig has not looked good at all. He just can't compete on the feet. That's all it is. He just can't compete with anybody that has good striking at all. And Walker does. I mean, he's a knockout guy. So it's like I just don't really I just don't think this is going to be all that competitive. I think Walker's either going to get I actually do think he's going to get a pretty easy knockout first or second round. I think he's going to get a pretty easy knockout. And I mean, what does he do if he gets on the ground? Walker, we just saw Walker. He's good on the ground. I don't think you're going to, I mean, you might be able to submit Walker, but I don't know. I mean, it would be pretty close on the ground anyway. I mean, I do think Craig has an advantage on the ground, obviously, but how is he going to get them there? Get him there. I mean, Walker is massive. He's 6'5" or something like that. So he's got the height advantage. He's huge. He weighs a lot. He's hard to take down. I mean, the guy is awkward too. I mean, if you get in close, you're going to get knocked out, which is why it's like, I just don't see how Paul Craig wins this fight. This is a terrible matchup for him. Awful, awful matchup. And I think that's exactly why they gave it to Walker when he's in Brazil. They're giving Walker an easier matchup here because it just clearly favors him. And like I said, I honestly don't think it's going to be close. In the last matchup against Uzdemir, Paul Craig literally just rolling around on the canvas. That shit has got to be the worst shit to watch. And I cannot watch. If you do that one time, that's it. To me, your career is done. Like, if you cannot even stand up and compete with somebody on the feet, and you're literally just pulling guard like 20 times a fight, you're just, oh, I'm going to fall down and hope grab onto an ankle. Like, just get out of the cage. Honestly, you should not be fighting in the UFC if you're doing shit like that. That's honestly my opinion on it. I can't stand it. Claudio Puelles did that. Remember, he did that against Hooker at the end of the year. Get the fuck out of here. Like, if you start doing that, get out of here. If I was part of the UFC, especially, you're getting cut immediately. I don't want to see that. I never want to see that. But Craig did the exact same thing. He did the exact same thing against Uzdemir. Pulled guard, rolling around on the ground, trying to get an ankle. Get out of here. I don't want to see that. And I liked Paul Craig before that. And then he did that. I'm done. Don't want to see it. Get out. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen here. He just can't compete with Johnny Walker on the feet. I don't think it's going to be close. I think we're seeing a knockout first round. Easy. That's what I think. The odds are closer than you would. Well, they are fairly one-sided towards Walker, but they're closer than I'm making it sound for sure. Minus 186 for Walker, plus 150 for Craig. I would also imagine that betting line has a lot to do with the fact that it is in Brazil, because honestly, I think when I saw it open, it was actually a lot closer. I think it was actually pretty much dead even. So I'm assuming, partially because of what happened in both of their last fights, plus it's in Brazil, people are going with Walker. But I mean, honestly, like I said, I don't even think it's close. So Walker, I'm going with all day, minus 186. Over under is at 1.5. The under is the favorite right now, minus 189. I mean, I think people are kind of seeing what I'm seeing. First round knockout for Walker, you know? But I mean, in terms of the money, though, in terms of the odds, never. I would never put money on under 1.5 at minus 189. Are you shitting me? Those are terrible odds. Like, like that halfway through the second round and you're going minus 189. Not in this, like, no, no. I don't even know a situation where I would do that. I really don't. Unless it's like wildly one-sided. Like, actually, you know what? Almeida later, and we will talk about that matchup. That might be a situation where I would go under 1.5 for minus 189. I might do it then, but those are crazy odds for that kind of thing. So, I mean, if you're looking at some juicy odds, over 1.5 for plus 145, like, oh my God, like, definitely put a little bit of money on that. Just, I mean, second round, it's halfway through the second round. Who's to say that Walker can't land something big? Like, he could easily not want to land something big. He might not even want to push the pace and just make it to the second round. And then he starts pushing the pace. There's nothing to say that, like, he won't do that. So, I mean, plus 145, you might as well put a few bucks on that. It's a good looking line. But that's it for that one. Then we've got Jessica Andrade, Lauren Murphy. What a fucking mismatch on this one. This is where it starts to get like, okay, we're talking clear parlay opportunity. There's no way. I would truly be blown away if Andrade somehow loses this. Like, something crazy would have to happen for Andrade to lose this fight. I don't even know why this is being made, to be honest. I don't really see why. Like, I don't really see how either one of them fits into this. Like, why is Andrade at 125, first of all? I mean, maybe she couldn't cut the weight in time for to make this fight in Brazil. That's possible. But at that point, it's like Murphy, like, I guess maybe what they're trying to do is they're trying to get Andrade to get a finish. She gets a finish over somebody who was fighting against Valentina. Then you give Andrade the shot at Valentina. Maybe that's where they're going with it. But honestly, I don't really see what. It's just a weird matchup. It's just weird. But anyway, not only is it weird, it's very one-sided. It's clearly going to be Andrade. She's only ever lost, or at least recently, she's only lost to people that have held the belt or who are holding the belt currently. She lost to Zhang Weili. I think that was a decision, they said. I honestly don't remember how the results worked out, but she lost to Weili. I think she lost to Valentina. I think she lost to Rose one of the times. One of the times she lost to Rose. So it's like, those are her last 3 losses. So they are holding the belt or have held the belt recently. And on the other side, it's Murphy, and who's done absolutely nothing, who's never had a good win. Like, her best win, honestly, is Joanne Wood. And that was a split decision. And Wood is now basically gone from the UFC. Like, okay. And you're fighting against Jessica Andrade. Like, mind-blowing that that's even happening. Like, why? Why is this happening? So I think she's going to pretty clearly get a finish. That being said, Murphy is pretty tough. So if Andrade doesn't get a finish, it's plausible. But honestly, Andrade just pushes the pace so hard, and she's so good and so strong. I would be pretty surprised if Murphy made it out of the second round. So that's how I'm seeing it. And honestly, it could go either way in terms of the finish, really. She's that good. She could easily get a knockout by just pushing the pace and landing some crazy combos, or she could get a submission. She's that good too. I mean, it really could go. We're talking about basically a slightly less good version of Zhang Weili. That's who Andrade is. She's exactly the same as Zhang Weili, except for just the slightest bit not as good, I would say. But they really are. It's that close. They're really that good. But anyway, so for me and for everybody else, not even close. Minus 500 for Andrade. Obvious choice for a parlay. Murphy plus 375. Throw that out the window. Under 2.5 right now. And I think that goes to what I said about Murphy being so tough. It's not even that I don't think Andrade is good enough to get a finish over Murphy. I think she's clearly very good. Like, she's clearly good enough to get a knockout or a submission over Murphy. But can she get it done? I'm putting money on the under on this one because it actually is dead even right now. Well, pretty much. Minus 119 for the over 2.5. Minus 108 for the under. When you see this big of a mismatch, minus 500, usually you would want to go for the under. So in this case, that is exactly what I'm going to do. And like I said, it's a huge mismatch to me. So minus 108 is definitely worth that little bit of action on there for sure. Then we got Burns and Magny. Another well, actually, no. I was going to say it's a slightly strange matchup, which, yeah, I mean, it kind of is, but I see why they're making it. I mean, Burns lost to Chimaev, so you probably want him to fight down a little bit. And I mean, there is nowhere to go up. I mean, he fought everybody above him, so it wouldn't make sense to fight up. So fighting down kind of makes sense. Who deserves it? Magny. He definitely deserves it. So from that point of view, I'm not really surprised that this was made. That being said, I agree with the odds that this is not really all that close. I mean, Magny's struggling to kind of win against these top guys. He's never really beaten anybody that's like, bam, like right at the top there. And that's who Burns is. Burns almost beat Chimaev. He almost knocked Chimaev out. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure he can handle Neil Magny. Magny is not going to be able to show anything that Chimaev couldn't. I mean, like, Burns just went in a decision. Was it a split? It wasn't. I don't think it was a split. It might have been, actually. I don't know. I don't remember, actually. But it was a decision. He almost finished Chimaev. I just don't even see how this could possibly go in Magny's direction. I think it's very, very clearly in Burns's direction. So obviously that's the way I'm going. Minus 500 for Burns. Again, easy parlay. Magny plus 350. The over-under is at 2.5. So they do think he's going to get a finish. I'm not sure about it. I'm kind of leaning towards the finish too. I really am. Actually, what did I say? Oh, I did go finish. But I was leaning back and forth on it only because I know how tough Magny is, and he pretty much always gets to decisions. That being said, Burns, I mean, he's so good, especially now on the feet too, because he used to be more of just a submission kind of guy, but he is very good on the feet as well. Like I said, almost knocked out Chimaev. So for me, it is worth a little bit of a gamble to go for I don't know. The odds are dead even on this. I mean, minus 106, so that's the plus money kind of. For over 2.5, minus 120 for under 2.5. That's one to think about. That really is something to think about. I still think he's going to get the finish. So I'm going under at minus 120. But that's definitely one of the closer ones. Do you go over or under on that one? Yeah, I'm going under minus 120 because I do think he's going to get the finish. Yeah. Then we get into the real stuff. Davis and Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno, number 4. I mean, this is I love this. I love this matchup. Again, obviously, for the 4th time. I mean, obviously, I want to see Figgy. I mean, Figueiredo is so good. He's so good. I want to see him fight somebody else, but this, I mean, how could you argue with this again? I mean, it's clearly going to be a fucking insane fight. Cannot wait for this. So, who do I think is going to win? Honestly, no idea. I have absolutely no idea on this one. I've been back and forth on this one. First, I chose Moreno. Um, I chose Moreno, went back to Figgy, went back to Moreno, went back to Figgy, and I gotta say, I'm with Figgy on this one. I'm just that slightest bit, just the slightest bit towards Figueiredo. And I really have to emphasize how paper thin this is. That it really, really could go either way. And I mean, I don't know how you could argue otherwise. I mean, there's a reason why this is the 4th fight happening. Because really nobody knows. Nobody knows. So, I mean, I can only give my best guess, and my best guess is Figueiredo, and I will tell you why. I rewatched the last fight because, to be honest, it's really the only one that matters. I mean, the first fight was a draw. That was so long ago. They've seen each other. This is the 3rd time they've seen each other since the first fight. So I don't think that one's relevant anymore. The second one was the second one was the finish. I watched the finish happen, and we also know Davison was not doing well going into that fight. He said that quite a bit. And I do believe it. He cuts a lot of weight, and he wasn't training properly at that point. He also didn't have the right strategy. So I kind of threw that one out the window a little bit too. So for me, really, the only one that mattered was that last one. Plus, of course, it was the most recent one as well. So you got to think, well, it was also Figgy's last fight. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Also, Brandon Moreno's second last fight. He only had one fight after that anyway, which I don't really think you could learn much from anyway. So really, I think it all comes down to watching that last fight because they both came in as good as they could have come in. They both performed. They both had game plans. They both did well. So for me, that is the most telling fight. And Figgy won it. And not only did he win it, but honestly, after rewatching it, because I got to say, at the time, I kind of scored it towards Moreno. I was close, and I was thinking, oh, Figgy could win this for sure. But I was thinking, oh, I think Moreno is probably going to win this actually on the cards. And then the cards came back. Obviously, he didn't. But I watched it yesterday. Or was it yesterday? Yeah, it was yesterday. I watched it yesterday, and I honestly, I don't really, I mean, I wouldn't say it wasn't close. Obviously, it was close, but I got to say, I had it clearly for Figueiredo. I had it 3 rounds to 2. In fact, you even could have made a slight argument, a slight argument for giving him 4 out of the 5 rounds because, and if you even look at what the people were scoring round by round, there were people all over there were people back and forth on 4 of the rounds. There was only 1 round that was convincing, really, or 3 rounds that were kind of back and forth. There were 2 rounds that were convincing. One of them was for Figgy, one of them was for Moreno. The other 3 really were up to interpretation. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of had those 3 in terms of for Figueiredo because of the damage. And it's all about damage. So if that fight were to be scored today, I don't even think you could make a case for Brandon Moreno winning that fight. I really don't. And it's because of that damage. So I totally understand why the judges went in that direction, which is crazy for me to say because we've been shitting all over these judges. But I gotta say, when I rewatched it, I can't argue. I had it the same way. I had Figgy by decision, 48-47. So can't argue with that. And I will tell you why. Again, I will tell you why actually. Because he dropped him multiple times. He dropped Moreno. I honestly lost count. He dropped him that many times. He dropped him with punches, I think twice, which is convincing. Those are knockdowns. Those are convincing. And one of them almost got the KO where it was like, holy shit, he almost got a KO there. And Moreno never really did any of that. He never had a big moment. So if you rewatch it again, you'll see what I mean. Moreno never really had a massive, massive moment. He did have that one moment where he wobbled him a little bit, but I mean, the knockdowns from Figueiredo were just like, oh wow, like okay. And then yeah. So I mean, that for me is what's pushing it over the edge, not just for the fight last time, but for this fight too. Because if he did it then, he can do it again, obviously. Like there's no reason why he couldn't do that again. Plus, huge difference this time. Last time this was in San Diego, or I think it was San Diego, but it was in front of a primarily Spanish crowd, which is obviously going, or Mexican, Spanish, they're speaking Spanish is what I mean. Spanish speaking crowd, which is obviously going to favor Moreno. And by the way, again, Figueiredo did win that fight. So already he won in what you could really argue is enemy territory for sure. I mean, actually, I think it was pretty clearly enemy territory. They were booing him. They were hated him the whole time. Now, though, he's got the benefit of the crowd on his side. And I mean, it's Moreno. I don't think they're not going to be booing Moreno. I don't think. I would be a little surprised if they booed Moreno. I'm not going to lie. But who's going to get more cheers? Figueiredo all day. It's in Brazil. I don't think, I mean, like, I love Moreno, but when he said that in his interview where he's like, I think I'm going to be the crowd favorite in Brazil, I don't know how you could say that. I honestly don't know how you could say that. Like, they're clearly going to be going for their champ in Brazil. It's obviously going to be Figueiredo crowd. So, yeah. And as we've seen, we saw that with Patty the Batty. That can influence fights. So already, I mean, it might not even be the atmosphere for the fighters. It might be the atmosphere for the judges. And if this makes it to a decision, which statistically, even these two guys, they've made it to 2 decisions out of their 3 fights. Why wouldn't you see a third one out of 4? So, when you consider the outside factors, you start to see why you kind of would want to lean towards Figueiredo. And plus, I got to say also, the third thing, the weight cut. He looked good on Ariel's show. Didn't show any signs of looking weird. I mean, he's looked good the whole week. Looks fantastic. I don't have any reason to question his weight cut this time at all. Plus, the final thing. What was the final thing? I was thinking of it as I was talking. I was like, oh, I had another point. Oh, I forgot. But that's enough, really. I mean, all of those things together, I mean, it's such a thin matchup. Like we've seen this 3 times. We know exactly how close this. Oh yeah, Henry Cejudo. That was the other thing. After what I saw with Cejudo being his coach, I mean, if he did that again, which I don't actually know if he did train that way again, but if he did, and if he got a game plan from Cejudo again, I think that's what pushes it over the edge for sure. So I'm going with Figueiredo on this one. Those are my reasons. It is close. If you're going with Moreno, I totally understand, but Figueiredo, he does have all those tiny, tiny factors. Every single one of them goes on his side. So That's how I got to go with it. And the odds are, of course, dead even. They do finally have a favorite, because I will say it has actually been at even money almost all week. Actually, almost since it was announced, really. It's been dead even the entire time. There is a favorite on Bet99 right now, though, which I just realized I don't have my banner up, but honestly, now it's too late anyway, so who cares? Plus 100 for Figueiredo, minus 123 for Moreno. So they have picked a slight favorite now. But again, these when numbers are that close, they don't matter to a certain extent. I mean, again, if it's that close, why not bet on the underdog anyway? You're getting plus money out of it. So for me, that makes sense from a betting standpoint anyway, but also because I actually didn't even know that going into today. I don't look at odds before when I make these picks because I don't want to be influenced by the odds. So when I open these up during the show, that's me actually seeing it for the first time. In fact, I haven't even seen what the prelim odds look like. I have only seen the main card because that's what I'm looking at right now. Anyway, that's just a little sneak peek into how I do things. Which is why, again, it's like you can never say that I'm influenced by the odds because I don't even see the odds. I literally don't see them until the day of, or I hear about them going into it. Occasionally, I check them after I've made my picks to be like, oh, I wonder what they're at. But yeah. Anyway, sneak peek behind the curtain. Oh yeah, over under is at 4.5. So they are, I mean, how could you argue with that too? Like I said, 2 out of the 3 fights made it to the 5th round, or made it to a decision, a 5-round decision. So I have to believe that that's going to happen again. And only be actually, no, did I? Yeah, I did do decision only because, and I really was about to go with a finish for Figueiredo, but you got to remember Moreno has never been finished. And that's all you got to say about it. I mean, he's never been finished. So if I think that Figgy's going to win, I have to think that Moreno's probably going to last the entire 5 rounds, especially with what we saw last time. I mean, he got dropped to his knees multiple times, and the leg kicks too. It wasn't even just the punches, by the way, too. And that's where I was getting at. It wasn't just those punch knockdowns, it was the kicks. He knocked him, he swept his feet off. He swept him off his feet, I think 5 or 6 times. It was a lot. Like he got a lot of, I don't even know what you would call that. I don't think they're technically knockdowns, but they're kind of knockdowns. So, I mean, if I think that Figgy's gonna, if Moreno withstood all of that, I'm sure he can withstand it again and get to the final bell. Would I be surprised if Figgy gets a finish? No, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if Moreno got a finish. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised with no matter what happens here. I wouldn't be surprised because I know that anything can happen in this matchup. The only thing that would surprise me, I guess, is if somebody got a finish in the first or maybe even the second round. I would genuinely be a little surprised by that. But rounds 3, 4, 5, and decision, anything could either one of those guys could win in any of those rounds or a decision. That's where we're at right now. But my best guess, like I said, has to be Figueiredo decision because Moreno has never been finished. And if we're looking at the over under, like I said, 4.5, they are favoring the over at minus 148. And I gotta say, like I said, I'm favoring the same thing, so I can't argue with that. Minus 148, is there enough meat on that? I mean, they are flyweights. They've made it to a decision twice already. They know each other really well, obviously. So you'd have to favor the over. And at minus 148, honestly, I thought it was going to be a little bit higher. So, there's a pretty good argument for throwing some money at that. Plus 116 for under 4.5. There's also a strong case for that, too. I mean, like I said, they could. Either one of them could get a finish. Either one of them could get a finish in the first. I would say three, four, five. Those are the rounds where I would see a finish coming. I would definitely never expect a first or a second round, but yeah, 3, 4, 5 could definitely happen. So plus 116, it's an option, but like I said, their track record, I've got to go with minus 148 for over 4.5. And then we get to the main event, light heavyweight title bout, the vacant, for the second time in a row, vacant light heavyweight title. Unreal how that worked out. What a shit show that that belt is at this point. My God. And yeah, this one, I gotta say, I was back and forth on this one too. I really was. And I'm still not entirely convinced. I don't know if I've convinced myself of my pick. I really don't know. Um, yeah, I don't know. I really, even as I'm talking about this, I'm I'm struggling with this pick. I really, really am. Obviously I'll get into what I wrote down and I still stand by it. I will be picking this person, but I will say I'm not 100% convinced. I'm really not. But yeah, anyway, Teixeira, Glover, and Jamal Hill on the other side. It is so close, guys. It is so, so close. On the one side, Glover, obviously much better on the ground in the grappling department. That is not even a discussion. I mean, it's really at this point, it is very clearly grappler striker. That's what we got here. I don't even know how you could argue that. I mean, Hill statistically, I mean, what uh, historically, that's the word I was looking for. Historically, has not done well against, or hasn't done as well, I should say, against grapplers. I can't even say he hasn't done well. I mean, he's only lost once in his career. So it's clearly you know, may struggle on the ground, but it doesn't say he's terrible. I mean, or else he would have had a lot more losses. And of course, Teixeira has struggled with some of the strikers in the past. What makes this interesting, though, besides those styles, is of course the age, because that's really what becomes the main question is Jamal Hill is very young in terms of a title contender. And yeah, and Glover is not. Let's just say that. I mean, there's over a 10-year difference easily. I don't know if it's quite 15 years, but it's over a 10-year difference. So you got to wonder. You got to wonder at that point, and this is 5 rounds. You really got to wonder at that point, can Glover actually last that long with somebody? I mean, he lasted with Yuri. So that again, and that's why this is so interesting and so hard to predict, because it's like I said the same thing about Yuri, and everybody else did too. They did not expect that to go all 5 rounds. And I mean, yes, it ended a minute early, so it didn't go all the 5 rounds. Whatever. We you know what we mean. It did last all 5 rounds. Let's just say that. So I mean, we've been wrong about that before too. So it's kind of like, why are we doubting Glover again? And it's in Brazil. It's in Brazil, and he held the belt last year, and he's the better grappler. And Jamal Hill seems to struggle a little bit with grappling. So you'd think you should really be going in the Glover direction, but I gotta say, I I'm not. I don't know. I can't seem to force myself to pick Glover in this. I just don't know what it is. I think it really is that youth part of it, because Jamal Hill, like I said, he doesn't look bad on the ground. I'm not saying that. He just doesn't do as well because he's clearly a striker. But he is that young and that athletic where why couldn't he? Why couldn't he learn? Why couldn't he be that good at shutting grappling down after working on it for so long? Why would he not be able to do that? I mean, like I said, he's super young. super athletic. Why would he not be able to do that? And that's what I keep landing on, is it's like, why am I doubting Jamal Hill, who hasn't really given anybody a reason to doubt him at all? I mean, the opposite. Every time you doubt Jamal Hill, he wins spectacularly. So I don't know. But like I said, then on the other side, people doubt Glover all the time too. And we doubted him against Jan. We doubted him against Yuri. And he proved us wrong both times, except for that last minute where, again, he was beating Yuri. He won that fight. And within the last minute, he was submitted. That's what happened. He was about to win. We know that. We know that for a fact. He was about to win, and he gets submitted. So and that was Yuri. Yuri is way better than Jamal Hill, and I'm not questioning that at all. Like I think that's a blatant fact. Yuri is clearly, I would actually say he's clearly the champ still. That's how I see it. I see it as Yuri is the number one light heavyweight. I don't care what happens in this fight. Yuri is the number one. Nothing can convince me otherwise, because I haven't seen anything to suggest otherwise. So, I don't know. Like when you think of it like that, it's like I don't know which way to go with it. So follow your gut on this one. I mean, seriously. But yeah, I will admit there's a lot of factors going in Glover's way, and a part of me wants to pick him, but I just can't do it because I really do think that Jamal Hill is going to get a finish. So that's what I'm going with. I do think he's going to get a finish. I do think he's going to get a KO, and I do think that he will be the champ. Jamal Hill, minus 140. He is the favorite, which, by the way, I actually think is more surprising than anything else. I thought he was going to be the underdog. But I mean, I knew based on watching Ariel's show that he was the favorite. But I do think, just like them, that I am actually surprised by that, because Glover's at home. He held the belt last year. He beat Jan. He was about to beat Yuri. And it's in Brazil. So shouldn't he be the favorite? That's what I think. He should be the favorite. But he's not. So I don't know. And even based on that, maybe you should be choosing Glover, because the odds don't support what's happening here. Because I think Glover should be the favorite here, like minus, I don't know. Yeah, minus 150 even. I would say actually the odds should be flipped right now. But I am also going with Jamal Hill. So how do I argue that? I don't know. I mean, again, you can see how conflicted I am on this. I really, really am super conflicted about this. But like I said, I there's something about Jamal Hill on this. I've got to go with him. I have to go with Jamal Hill. The over-under. This is where it gets really interesting, actually. It's at 1.5 rounds. I actually didn't know that until I just looked at it, like literally right now. That is fascinating. I don't know why it would be. I say that's going to be clearly over 1.5 rounds. Like really the only way you wouldn't see that is if Jamal Hill gets a quick knockout. Maybe Glover gets a quick submission, but honestly, I don't think that would happen. Because you got to realize what has to happen. He has to take down somebody that's over 10 years younger than him, who's extremely dangerous on the feet, has to do that in the first round and get a finish, or I guess in the first half of the second round too, and get a finish. Or Jamal Hill has to get a knockout, which I could see happening. But to set the odds at that, that's shocking, honestly. I'm very surprised by that. I would be throwing a lot of money at the minus 134 over 1.5. That is for sure where I'm headed. Yeah, so I'm pretty surprised by that, I gotta say. And yeah, that's it. That's it for the main card anyway. And I will talk about two. I will talk about two prelims. that are wildly one-sided in my mind. And one of them I saw when I was looking at when I was scrolling down, I saw that one of them is to call it one-sided is that's an understatement. Gelton Almeida, very much one-sided. But anyway, we will start with the first one that I want to talk about, and that is shockingly close. And I mean shockingly close. I'm not even kidding. If I could afford it, I would be putting $1,000 on McKinney, and I'm dead serious about this because I don't even see how this is close. I don't even know why this is close on the odds at all. I truly am baffled by looking at these odds as to why this is even remotely close. I truly don't understand why. Terrence McKinney, Ishmael Bonfim. Yeah, I don't understand. I really don't get it. I mean, maybe they're favoring him because he's Brazilian. Maybe they're favoring him. I think he might be undefeated actually. But he's never faced anybody good. Like, are we forgetting that? Like, are we forgetting that he's never beaten anybody good? And that McKinney has absolutely destroyed everybody? Like, he's beating people. Every single person he's fought, and we'll take Drew Dober out of it for a second because that's its own statement. But everybody else, I mean, he has literally just made them look like they don't even belong there. That's how clearly he's beating these guys, like knocking out people cold, submitting them easily, like so well rounded that I don't even know how a lot of these people could beat him. He's just so well rounded. I don't even know where the weakness is. I don't. So it's like to see the odds on this blows my fucking mind. And the one reason I put out Drew Dober out of that is because yes, he did lose that, but that is 100% due to the simple fact that Dober's chin is not human. I mean, that the punch that he took from McKinney would have put anybody to sleep, like full on sleeping on the ground. That is what he went through. And Dober somehow got out of that and still got dropped multiple times, by the way. Any ref could have stopped that at any moment. I was actually surprised that they didn't. I thought McKinney was going to I thought the ref was going to stop it and McKinney won. So that's why it's like, you don't even really need to include Dober and like be like, oh, well, he lost to Dober. It's like, did he though? I mean, if any, like if most refs, if they see that happen, boom, fight over. That's it. Like McKinney wins. So, I mean, really, Dober's just lucky he got a good ref out of that, because then he turns it around and gets an equally insane knockdown. And then this time the ref did call it to a stop, but he was in the same position that Dober was. So it was kind of like, yeah, you could have, I mean, I don't think you could have let it go because it was going to get really bad for McKinney in a second. But, the fact that any ref could have stopped it for McKinney and nobody would have complained, that right there tells you exactly what we're dealing with here. Drew Dober. And can we honestly say, like, what have we seen from Bonfim that tells you he's better than Dober? Like okay, he can take a punch better than Dober, or he can out wrestle McKinney better than Dober. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, where have you seen this from Bonfim that he is even money? He is even money with McKinney. Are you out of your fucking mind? Like, I get we're in Brazil, but who gives a shit? Like, this is to me another first or second round finish for McKinney. Like, I would be shocked, honestly, if this got to I mean, maybe he makes it to the final bell. Maybe, but you're not winning. Like, you'd have to seriously I don't even know what you would have to like manhandle McKinney for rounds 2 and 3 to win this, because you're definitely not winning round number 1. That is locked in the books for McKinney right away. The first round, just give it to McKinney now. Sign your name, Douglas Crosby. Like just give it to him now. But after that, I mean, Bonfim, maybe, I don't know. Like, we haven't seen McKinney in the second or third round, so maybe, but to make it an even money, I mean, my God, like I said, he basically knocked Dober out, and he's the only person who's ever knocked Dober down like that. The singular person who's done that to Drew Dober is McKinney, and he's fighting somebody who has what, one fight in the UFC? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? The betting line, like I said, the betting lines in this, absolutely no sense. Like I said, I'd be putting, if I could afford it, I'd put $1,000 on McKinney. I really would, because I really do think you're gonna clean up on this for sure. And I'm going finish. So I mean, if you really want to make some money, go for McKinney by KO, probably, because I mean, Bonfim is more of a ground guy. So I would say the clear path to victory is on the feet too. So I think, McKinney KO, whatever the odds are on that, my God, I mean, you could really clean up with this. I really do think that. And I'm blown away that this is even the betting line for this. Minus 129. Minus 129. That is outrageous. That is outrageously low. I truly, when I saw this fight, I was like, oh, this is going to be -4, like -300 at least. Minus 129. That is insanity. Put money on this. Like, put money on that for sure. Like, I mean, sure, maybe we get a complete upset. Maybe we get completely thrown off. Maybe Bonfim is some absolute stud that's just going to come in there and manhandle McKinney, just nullify everything he has. But honestly, truly don't see any indication of that happening whatsoever. So yeah, minus 129 for McKinney. Throw your money on that. Over under 1.5. Heavily favoring minus the under 1.5, I should say. Minus 220. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, like, yeah, I do think McKinney's gonna get a first round knockout. But I gotta say, I wouldn't really be all that surprised if McKinney took it a little slow and went for the second round finish instead. I wouldn't be surprised. So, I mean, I'm definitely not putting any money on the minus 220 for under 1.5. It goes by the same logic as what I just said about that other fight that I said that about, that I can't remember right now. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. Do not put money on minus 220 under 1.5. That is psychotic to be putting money on something like that. If you want to put money on it, put it on the over, plus 171 for over 1.5. Like I said, you know what? Bonfim, like I said, I think he might be undefeated. He might have one loss or something. I honestly can't remember that part of it. But you got to give him credit. It's like some kind of credit. I mean, I do think a first round knockout is pretty plausible for sure. But, the guy is good. Like, I'm not saying he's not good. I just think McKinney's a fucking animal. Like, that's the difference. We're talking about basically the lightweight. Well, I don't know. I was going to say the lightweight Chimaev. He's not quite that level, but he is at the point where it's like we're talking about somebody who gets really quick finishes easily. Like, or, what was I going to say? Actually, I don't even know. There was a point that I had. But anyway, the point is, we could easily see McKinney go into the second round here. And, if Bonfim is tougher than everybody thinks, if he's tougher than I think, which he could be, I'm not doubting that, then, we easily see this go into the third round and we see a decision, like I said. I still think McKinney's going to win no matter what, but could it make it to a decision? Sure. Sure could. So, yeah, plus 171. Yeah, might as well put a little bit of cash on that. That's why, like I said, these odds today, I mean, some of these odds honestly are just all over the place. They really are. Yeah, again, if I could afford it, man, man, we'd be putting some real money down on some of these. Jelton Almeida, that's the last one I'm going to talk about. Shamil Abdurrahimov. What a fucking mismatch. What? Why is this being made? Like, honestly, I honestly, what I think is happening, they're getting rid of Shamil. This will be his last fight. Almeida, they just wanted to give him an easy win in Brazil. Truly, that is exactly what I think is happening. I don't know how you could see that any other way. Shamil doesn't have any good wins at all. In fact, he's got a lot of losses recently. And on the other side, who I think is going to be one of the next challengers for the light heavyweight belt, possibly even the heavyweight belt at some point. I would not be surprised if, I don't know if we could say, double champ, but honestly, I think he's a pretty clear choice to be the next light heavyweight champ. And well, after this one, obviously. And then to challenge for the heavyweight belt eventually. I really do. I mean, I don't know how, like, if you watch this guy, that right there, Jelton Almeida, to me, is the light heavyweight version of Chimaev. That is a perfect, yeah, that is actually a perfect comparison because he did not get hit. I didn't even notice that. Funny enough, I didn't even notice that he didn't even get hit. He did not get hit in 2 of his 3 fights, and he was hit once in the other one. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, Chimaev. Chimaev did that. Hit once in 3 fights. That's literally what Jelton did. And he's going to do it again. I would be shocked if Abdurrahimov entered the second round. I would be shocked. This is not going to be close. To call this is a murder. This is not a mismatch. This is an assassination. Like, this is how you end Shamil's career. This is exactly what they're trying to do. I mean, I don't know what they have against Shamil, but my God, they are just like gun to the head, like straight to the dome, just poof, assassin. That's what they're doing to his career right now with Jelton Almeida, throwing him straight at him. They must really hate Shamil. As for what kind of finish, you could really go either way. I mean, he's got knockout power. He gets submission. I think he's gotten submissions in all 3 of them. So that's the way that I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning towards a first round submission, just like his other wins. But I mean, especially since he's at heavyweight, doesn't want to take a chance with the heavyweight power, even though this guy's not good. By the way, he's like fucking over 10 years younger than Shamil. Again, another reason why are you making this fight? So I would probably go for the submission because we're talking about heavyweights. He doesn't want to test anything. He's not looking to want to test anything. Let's just get an easy win by getting a submission in the first round. I think that's the way it's going to go. But could he grab a first round KO? Yeah, he easily could do that as well. So could go either way with that way. But yeah, minus 1,000. Yeah. Again, this is a scenario. I'm not even kidding. If I was like, let's say I make $100,000 a year. Clearly, I'm not making that. But if I was, I'm not even joking or exaggerating when I say I would put $10,000 on Jelton Almeida because there is a 0% chance, unless I even wrote down, I was like, unless Jelton gets hit by lightning during the match or like gets a freak injury or something, I truly don't even see how he could lose this. Like, all of his last 3 fights were better than this guy. I, like, this is not even remotely close. Minus 1,000, honestly, I would say is going light on it. So for real, you could make, I mean, you put $1,000 in, you get $100 back. So like, seriously, if you put, that's why I'm saying put $10,000 in, you win $1,000. Like, there is absolutely no way that he's losing this fight. Like, seriously, like, like, I actually, I think that's a bad thing. Um, like, just jinxing it. No, like, yeah, I would put $10,000 in. Seriously, easily, without question, I would put $10,000 in to win $1,000 easily. Like, there's no way he's losing this fight. As for the over under, that is where it gets more interesting because, like I said, he is at heavyweight, so he might have a slightly harder time doing this, but honestly, I don't think so. I'd probably be going with the under on this one, but this goes against what I kind of was just saying, where it's like I wouldn't really put under 1.5 if it's anything over like minus 200, which it is. It's a minus 300 right now, but I gotta say, how can you argue with that? I mean, he's got 3 first round submissions, and this guy is the worst opponent he's had yet. Like, why not? Why not put down minus 300 in some kind of a parlay? I mean, if you think, wow, like somehow this guy doesn't get submitted in the first or the second half of the first half of the second round, maybe you could go put it on plus 225 for over 1.5. But honestly, why bother? Like, I actually think you're probably going to cash in pretty easily on the under 1.5 as well. But maybe he lasts a little longer. Maybe he lasts a little longer. I don't think so. Is it plausible? Anything is possible. Anything is possible. But that is it for me. That is all the picks. And I will quickly go through the parlays, and then we can all get out to dinner because I'm starving. I mean, a lot of them are obvious because I just went through them. One of them, there are a couple actually I didn't get to talk about because they're just not interesting matchups. By the way, the only reason I really even talked about Junior, I mean, I don't even know why it says Junior, Gelton Almeida, is because he was my rookie of the year, which I gave out less than a month ago. So actually, I gave it out 3 weeks ago. I gave it out. So I mean, I wanted to talk about him, give him a little more shine, because I don't know why nobody's really talking about him. I mean, the one guy, I think it's GC from Ariel's show, he talks about him quite a bit. I mean, I've been talking about him since his first fight. I've been saying since then, this guy is the real deal. He is top 15 already. The fact that I don't even know why they haven't given him more shine. I just don't understand the thought process. Like, this guy is insanely good. So anyway, that's why I talked about it, because he deserves more recognition. He really does. But anyway, Nunes, Josiane Nunes minus 550. That's a good parlay. She's going against somebody. I think I can't remember if it's a debut or somebody that did really bad. I can't really remember, but I mean, Nunes is a very, very clear favorite in this. I think she's very clearly going to win. I actually picked her to get a rare KO, because you don't normally see knockouts too much in the women's fights. But I got to say, I'm going knockout on for Nunes there. Minus 550. Yeah, I'm doing that. So that's in the parlay. Nunes. Anybody named Nunes, I mean, just give them the win. No, Estela Nunes actually, ironically, just lost. But I actually did pick her too. But anyway, that's beside the point. Minus 550. Nunes. Then we've got McKinney. I mean, honestly, minus 129 is criminal. Put him in the parlay. McKinney's in the parlay. Cody Stamen, minus 367. Easy win. Minus 367. That's a third one. Jailton Almeida, throw that in every single fucking parlay you've got. Multi-sport, put put Almeida in every single one of them, honestly. Minus 1,000. Even though that's not really a whole lot of return, this is one of those ones where it's like, seriously, like, even just making a $20 difference, it's an extra 20 bucks. Just do it. Just do it. No. So yeah, Almeida minus 1,000, obvious choice. Thiago Moises, easy choice. I think they're just giving Moises an easy win in front of his Brazilian crowd. He's incredible. He is so good. Heavily underrated. Minus 400 right now. That's a steal. Throw that in the parlay. We've already got a 5-leg parlay, but we're still going. Who's Rodriguez? Gregory Rodriguez. Yeah. That's another fairly easy one. I would put in minus 313 Rodriguez. Gregory Rodriguez, RoboCop, put him in there. I'm staying way away from, I'm not even going close. The only fight on this entire card where I truly do not really even want to touch is Shogun Hua and Potieria, because I honestly don't know what's going to happen in that. Because I think Potieria is garbage, but I also think that Shogun Hua is clearly way past his prime. He's old, and we've seen what's happened to guys like that recently. Frankie Edgar, Gustafson, who else? Penn. Was it Penn? No, it wasn't Penn. Lawler. People like that. They're just getting absolutely annihilated. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Potieria did the exact same thing, but Potieria is just so bad. Like, he's just not good at all. So, I mean, I was even thinking about picking Shogun for that fight, but I did land on Potieria. Anyway, so we're keeping that fight way out of it. Walker, honestly, Walker should be in at least a few of your parlays. Andrade, throw that in every parlay. Burns, throw that in every parlay. And then, of course, leave the title fights out of it. You don't want to even touch those. They're so close. Anything could happen in either one of those. So, I mean, we've got, you could easily, I could say you're talking about 7-8 leg parlays cashing in pretty easily. The odds aren't great, but yeah, you could easily make quite a bit of money just picking those easy wins. Andrade, Burns, Almeida, people like that. I mean, they're, say what you want to say, like, oh, it's still a fight, anything can happen, oh, blah, blah. Like, yeah, yeah, Amanda Nunes lost to Juliana Pena. Kayla Harrison lost. Well, actually, Harrison Pacheco was actually close enough where I could have picked Pacheco. But, a lot of these, it's like, yeah, they're never going to lose. But, it's like, but aren't they going to win, though? Aren't they? And then 99% of the time they do. So, it's not crazy to bet 6-7 leg parlays. I do it all the time. It's not crazy to do that with people like the ones on this card. Because again, you're not talking about normal matchups here. A lot of these are wildly mismatched. So yeah, huge potential to make a lot of money on this card. Can't wait. Super excited to watch it. I can't wait to see this card. The crowd is going to be fucking insane. First card in Brazil since before COVID. And first pay-per-view in Brazil since I think they said 2018, possibly. They are going to go absolutely crazy. If you thought London was insane, but honestly, I'm not even kidding. I really do think Brazil, they're going to top it. I really do think they're going to top it with the energy, especially with a Brazilian in every single fight. And a lot of them are huge favorites. So we're going to see some good Brazilian wins, good Brazilian finishes, insane reactions from the crowd. This is going to be quite a card. I really cannot wait. This is going to be amazing. But yeah, that is it for me. If you want to see any of the other sports, Area 51 has got you covered. All of my social media stuff is below: Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. That's the other one, of course. Yeah, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Can't wait to see you next time. That's usually how I end it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.